Hello and happy Thanksgiving. Alex Kirshner here to pick week 13 of the college football schedule for Odds Checker. This has been a tough year, no way around it. A lot of things are not normal, particularly around this holiday. One thing that is normal is where I want to start with this week's picks. That is that the Iron Bowl is happening the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Auburn and Alabama. I'm going to start by picking Auburn plus 23.5 in one of college football's great rivalries. This game is being played in Tuscaloosa, which obviously has tended to tilt this series pretty significantly in Alabama's favor when this game is being played at Bryant Denny Stadium. And while I think Alabama is going to win this game by a comfortable enough margin, I do think that Auburn has the opportunity with its running game, which has really improved this year, to stay on the field, make some drives a little bit longer, make it harder for Alabama to run up the score in the way the Tide might prefer in a rivalry game like this. I also don't want to rule out Auburn doing something that it's done in a couple of recent Iron Bowls, and notably did in last year's Iron Bowl and also did against Tennessee last week, which is find a way to steal 7 points on a kick return or an interception return or something of that nature. Weird Auburn stuff tends to happen quite a bit in this rivalry game, a little bit more when the game's at Jordan-Hare than when it's in Tuscaloosa. But with that big of a cushion and Auburn's talent, I feel okay about 23.5. We'll watch. Maybe it'll go up this week if a lot of money comes in on Alabama. But I like to make my picks early in the week and then just kind of guide you through my rationale so that whenever you're watching this video before games, you can make the best decision for you based on where lines move. I want to move to the Big Ten. I'm taking the big number favorite, Ohio State and Illinois, Buckeyes minus 28 in Champaign. I think that we are probably getting Illinois a little bit overvalued here because of how badly they beat up on Nebraska. And wow, did they beat up on Nebraska in a way that was really embarrassing for the Huskers. But I think that had more to do with Nebraska than it did with Illinois. Illinois had a good game plan and schemed up well and put their players in a good position to succeed with some smart calls. I don't think you're going to out-scheme Ohio State in the same way you out-scheme Nebraska. Those are two very different calibers of coaching staff. And I think the big problem for Illinois, and the reason why I'm comfortable with Ohio State, even at minus 28, and I think I would be comfortable with them even maybe pushing 30, though I'm not sure I'd go much higher than that, is that Ohio State is just too fast at basically every position for Illinois. The recruiting difference, I think, really shows up at some point in this game. Illinois will not stop them. I have slight worries about Ohio State giving up some dumb long touchdown pass at some point. Indiana had a couple of really impressive downfield passing plays against Ohio State. But Indiana's receivers are better than Illinois', and I don't think Ohio State's cornerbacks, Shaun Wade in particular, are going to be as bad as they were in that narrow victory over Indiana. So I like the Buckeyes minus 28. Staying in the Big Ten for a few more picks here, actually. Just mentioned Nebraska, how embarrassing they played against Illinois. I'm going to fade the Huskers this week. I'm going to fade them hard. I have Iowa minus 14 in this game. It's being played in Iowa. Line's moved a bit for me. It's around 13.5 as we're talking right now. I think that I'd be comfortable laying about 13 for Iowa, and I think I'd probably stay away from Nebraska at pretty much any number that you are going to find for this game. I just wouldn't feel comfortable with them. Nebraska just sucks. They're bad. They have looked really terrible against everyone they've played except for Penn State, and Penn State has myriad issues of its own and has not won a game yet. The one thing that is kind of solidly going and working well for Nebraska is that their running game has been pretty efficient. It's been a pretty successful run game. They've been able to stay on schedule when they've run the ball. The problem is that they're playing Iowa, and Iowa is mean in the front seven, stopping the run. That's obviously been Iowa's identity for a long time. Some years they're better at it than others, and this year they are really, really good at stopping the run. So I'm just not sure where the matchup advantage is for Nebraska that would make me feel like Iowa is not going to cover 2 touchdowns in this game. Excuse me. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, Maryland and Indiana. My alma mater, the Terps. I have Maryland plus 14 in this game. And I am also pairing that with the over, with that total at 61.5. This one has moved slightly in my favor. I would, on the spread, Maryland is now a slightly smaller underdog in this game, not getting quite as many points. I would take Maryland getting 13 or more. I think very highly of Maryland's offense. Talia Tagovailoa might honestly be the best quarterback we have ever had at the University of Maryland. And I think that Maryland, after having the last two games canceled because of COVID infections, contact tracing, the protocols, is going to be fairly rested. And my understanding is that they're going to have a pretty full complement of players for this game if things go well. Again, we don't know if things are going to go well, right? I mean, COVID is running absolutely wild around the country right now. I think we're going to have a lot of games canceled, and you should expect that, over the course of the week, any number of games, including ones that we're picking here, might not come to fruition because this is all very much in flux. And we just have to do the best we can. Obviously, if a game gets canceled, you should get your money back. I think there are going to be a ton of points, though. I don't think Maryland can stop Indiana. I do think Maryland can make some hay against Indiana's secondary, and with Talia throwing the ball to Raheem Jarrett, Dante Demas, Jayshon Jones, a couple good receivers. I think it's going to be a points fest. These teams have played a lot of shootouts the last couple of years. I think there's another one here. Wouldn't surprise me if this were 41-31 Indiana, which would be a Maryland cover and the over, and obviously that's what I'll be looking for in this game. Let's move quickly to the Big 12. One pick in this league this week, Iowa State and Texas in Austin. Iowa State +1. The pick for me, I like the Cyclones as a small underdog in this game. I think that if that line falls, and I think it should, because I frankly think Iowa State is a better team and should be laying points in this game, then I would just consider Iowa State on the money line or at a pick 'em if it winds up being a pick 'em. Do not bet on the helmet. This is a thing that I talk about a lot. Do not bet on a program just because they're a big name brand and they used to be good and they're playing at home, and you just think that someone is going to get intimidated. Iowa State has beaten the big popular helmets in the Big 12 plenty of times, including Oklahoma earlier this year. You could argue that Iowa State has been the best, most well-rounded team in the Big 12 this year. They are extremely well-rounded. They don't have a hugely explosive passing game with Brock Purdy, but they stay on schedule. They move the ball well, and they don't have a lot of big flaws. I would expect that on defense, they are going to sit back and make Sam Ehlinger try to pick them apart. And honestly, I'm not sure he can do it. I like Iowa State, especially getting points, which they are right now, even just a single point in this game. In the Pac-12 this week, Oregon and Oregon State in the game that used to be called the Civil War, but is no longer. I have Oregon -13 in this game, and I also have the under at a total of 63. Two plays together, a bit of a hedge because I think that, with the big number favorite and the under, I'm kind of relying on the notion that if there are a lot of points in this game, like if these teams combine for 64 points, Oregon's going to be doing a lot of that work on offense. So at least if it goes over, I think the cover should be in pretty good shape for Oregon. But I just think Oregon's going to score a lot of points. And I think that Oregon State probably will not. CJ Riddell, Jalen Redd, Devin Williams, Tyler Shaw, the new quarterback at Oregon under Joe Moorhead's leadership, they've looked pretty good. And the defense has been a bit suspect. It was suspect certainly against UCLA last week. Again, with the under bet, I'm sort of gambling that Oregon's defense isn't actually that bad, and they'll figure some things out. But Oregon State's offense has not been great. Tristan Gebbia has been a big drop-off at quarterback from Jake Luton, which might be surprising if you're someone who just turned on the Jaguars recently and has been watching Luton struggle there. But he was a good quarterback for Jonathan Smith in Oregon State, and they have struggled a great deal to replicate what they had when he was under center. I want to move quickly now to some of the G5 games that I have my eye on this week. Tulsa and Houston, the American. Tulsa, for some reason, getting points right now in this game, or was getting points when this line opened. And I believe still is, and you can look at your book. I have Tulsa plus 2.5, 2.5 point dog in this game. Line's fallen a little bit, might be a pick 'em, might be Tulsa favorite at some point this week. I would act quickly if I could, but I would just consider taking Tulsa on the money line if it gets to a point where you don't like the spread value. Tulsa's not sexy, but they might be a better team than Houston. They have certainly had better results. Houston has had some COVID problems. Obviously, like we just mentioned, there's going to be some unpredictability around that, but it's better to go into a game without having had your last game canceled because you've had COVID cases in your program. That was the case with Houston. And Tulsa's defense is just really, really serious. I think that they're going to make it pretty tough for Marquez Stevenson and Clayton Tune to connect for the big passing plays to which they are accustomed. And I think that Tulsa can hit some shots on offense. I mean, their big thing is they'll kind of lull you to sleep and then hit a big play, which famously they did on a Hail Mary to force overtime in a win against Tulane the other week. I think Tulsa's good. I think getting points, even on the road, is kind of a gift, and I feel really good about Tulsa plus 2.5 for myself. SMU just mentioned a bit ago that SMU lost to Tulsa in a brutal come-from-ahead loss a few weeks ago. I do not think that they are going to struggle, however, against East Carolina. I have SMU minus 11 visiting ECU in Greenville. Anything minus 13 or better, honestly, I would hammer SMU here. I think it's great value. ECU could be a little overvalued because they looked uncharacteristically competent in a big win over Temple last week. Temple had some COVID issues. Temple is terrible. Temple does not do a lot of things well. I think that SMU is just too athletic for ECU to keep this game even remotely close. And there is no part of ECU's defense that stacks up well at all against Shane Buechele and the SMU offense. I expect a lot of Mustang points, and a pretty lopsided SMU victory in that game. In the MAC, quick pick here, Kent State and Buffalo. I have Kent State plus 9.5. This has fallen. I'm getting line value here so far to about 7.5. I would not take it if it gets down to 7 or lower because I think very highly of Buffalo, and Buffalo is at home. But I would be into it at the current 7.5 as I record this. Again, watch all week. We make picks early and we talk about our rationale, try to track where things go over the course of the week. Buffalo's good. The thing is that Dustin Crum, Sean Lewis, Kent State's quarterback and head coach, have a good thing going. They scored 69 points against Akron. Very explosive offense. I think Crum is one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the MAC, not just in the G5, but in all of college football. And with him getting that many points against a MAC team, even if it's a good one, I feel pretty good about Kent's opportunity to cover. And my last of the week, and I'll get you out of here and you can get back to getting ready for your holiday. Southern Miss and UAB in Birmingham. I have UAB minus 17 points in this game. This line has moved for me also, a good value spot for me. The line's moved to UAB by 20. That is a lot of movement. I would frankly stay away, and I wanted to put this last for this reason. I would stay away from UAB if it is around there. I think it would be a no play for me at 20 points. If it gets to 21 and Southern Miss is getting 21 points in this game, I think I might just go ahead and flip it and take Southern Miss. And that's why I would keep a close eye on this as the week goes on. Southern Miss has a lot of issues. They lost their coach. They lost their interim coach who replaced that coach, their quarterback. They've had a lot of comings and goings this year, very much a team in transition, and it's not a good year for them. UAB is much better, and I think UAB's defense will put the clamps on. I don't think Southern Miss will be great, but again, if it winds up getting up to like 21 points, I think you look at Southern Miss. They had a good effort against UTSA, kind of a nice upstart in Conference USA last week. And I'm not sure that they're bad enough that I wouldn't like them getting 3 touchdowns in a conference game. I mean, remember, this is a conference with a ton of parity, even when you're dealing with one of the worst teams in the league like Southern Miss and one of the best like UAB. With that in mind, I want to wish you again a happy Thanksgiving. A lot going on. I hope you have a good and safe week. And that both of us can go ahead and make a little bit of money this weekend with some of these college football plays. Thanks so much and talk soon.